So great. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to keep it. This session is extremely interactive. We have labs for all attendees. Everyone gets a lab. Look under your chair. There's a lab. But we'll be handing that out. So it's an interactive session. This is not about us talking about ContainerLab. This is something that I wanted to, like, if I were out there, I would want to have this lab at my disposal if I'm doing it. So that's the reasoning behind having this type of a lab to begin with. So this is completely public already. So if you have, once we share the lab, you'll be able to get to the GitHub repository, clone it. So a laptop is necessary to engage and to interact. So we'll be handing out the lab with the username, ID, and password. So this is what the end goal, what you will do in this session is build this lab. And this will all be done using ContainerLab. I think many of you are likely very well-versed in ContainerLab, use it already. Do you guys all use ContainerLab? Okay, so a primer required, maybe some overview of ContainerLab perhaps? All right, indeed, okay. So ContainerLab we leverage this because it allows us to do it lab as code. And we leverage GitHub, like, Mo and I, we were collaborating, versioning in terms of just being able to easily share, collaborate, and then do the version checking. That was extremely helpful for us to do it. So once you have the lab, you'll be able to clone it, like I said. But in terms of ContainerLab, this is a project that Nokia developed, and it's available to all. It's free to use. There are a couple of prerequisites that you will need. For example, Docker. And then the installation steps I'll share later on, but that's one of the prerequisites. We're looking at also, right now we don't, if there are individuals who like Podman, the support is not there yet, but it's something hopefully we'll look at in the future. So, all right. Like I said, in terms of just doing lab as code, having that YAML file, having being able to declare the nodes, the OS, the configurations that you want or to be loaded up and deploy instantaneously, virtually. That's the beauty of emulating a lab environment, a multi-vendor lab, and in this case, the session we're doing. It's so we have Nokia, we have Arista, we have Sonic, all of these components in conjunction with other tools for observability, all deployed that can be done very seamlessly. And you'll notice this yourself when you log into your sessions. So being able to do that and not have any hardware, it's that's why we're leveraging it. That's why we really love ContainerLab, not just because we as Nokia developed it, but I think it makes for easy testing, scrutinizing the infrastructure that either we're operating or planning to build. So, as I mentioned, we leverage Git, and so this was very helpful. The repo, did we share the lab with all the attendees, or we're going to do it later on? So, like I said, this lab is fully public, and you can just clone it. So, in terms of workflow, the installing part, we'll go over the installing part, and the deploying part, I'll show that to you. And we will also be sharing the screen directly, so you're not looking at actually slides. I would highly encourage you to actually, once we do it, utilize the lab. It will run for 8 hours, and so if you like the lab, you can, if you have the resources either on your laptop or a server at home, you can definitely clone it and deploy it on your own infrastructure. and then tweak it. So we're using, in terms of the lab itself, the configuration files that are included in the lab, we tried as close to mimic or match the validated design guides from Nokia, from Arista, and whatever is available from Sonic to compose the configuration files that you'll see and you'll be able to test. So in terms of installing ContainerLab, there's an all-in-one installer. As you can see, this command, you can go and do it. Some of the prerequisites like Docker and ContainerLab and GitHub CLI just makes your life easier. And this is just a video of issuing the command. So this is how you would verify it by running hello world. One of the key things for ContainerLab is its ability to support different OSs. I mean, the support of the OSs is quite, I think, robust. So we have SR Linux, we have SROS, we have Juniper, Arista, Cisco, all of the traditional and typical network operating systems that you'd see that you'd want to test. They are all available either as containers or as VMs that can be packaged as containers that then you can deploy in ContainerLab. So, and there are other additional tools that you can also pull and utilize. So there are a few that we will utilize in the lab. So for example, Prometheus for the database, Grafana, and then GNMIC will be utilizing that, and Alpine as our clients. So all of these tools you will utilize and interact with in the lab. So as I mentioned, this is the overall topology of the lab. And you'll see that once you log into the GitHub repo, you should also see this layout in the lab. Let us know if you have any trouble actually accessing the lab or the VM instance. Everyone has a VM instance. And the VM instance is preloaded with all of the images, the configurations, everything. So that the images that we've used, SRL you can pull directly from GitHub repository. Arista, you'd have to log in to Arista and download and import it into Docker. Sonic we're using a Sonic VM image so that we had to package it as a container. The image for Sonic that we're using is quite large. So if you were to do it, if this many people were to download a 6 gig image, it would take quite a bit of time. So the VM instance has all of the images preloaded with the configurations. So if you have access to the lab, if you have access to the VM, you would go in, clone it, and then do a ContainerLab deploy, and then you would be able to deploy the lab. And there are activities. I would highly encourage you to open up a browser session and go to the GitHub page where it has different activities that you can do to get the lab fully functional. Yes. In terms of the user location? Yep.
So on the sheet where everybody has, there is a vmname.learnnokia.com. That's the lab. So all you need to do is open Putty or any terminal just to SSH. The username is Nokia, all in small, @vmx@learnnokia.com. And the password is given there. So you will have your own instance. And
yeah, the passwords are quite simple. They're different for, I think for Arista and Sonic, they're admin. For our clients, they're root and password. So has anyone successfully been able to log into the VM session? You're good? Okay. If you're having issues, let us know, because in terms of just content or going over ContainerLab, I think I think it's better experienced. So it's better to interact and have questions and I think a lot of you may have been exposed to ContainerLab, so it's a we want to make sure that you're able to deploy and then ask questions based on issues you're having. That was due to security policies. We had a very simple password called Nokia. And
So on the browser, you can just go to this github.com/learn-nokia/dc-multivendor. So this is a GitHub repo where we have all the deployment files, configuration files, everything is nicely structured and given out there with instructions how to spin up labs. So if you go here, I'll just take a minute to quickly just go over this page, right? So you have table of contents, which will give you topology file, what are all the tools we are using, and then what are all the login details for each and every appliance there. Nokia, Arista, Sonic clients, Prometheus, Grafana. And then from here, deploy the lab is where you'll start your activities, right? So just copy this, copy paste this on the instances which you guys have been given, and then you can continue your activities from there.
Yeah, so in terms of just the images we already talked about, the different images that are supported and how they can be packaged. For packaging a VM-based image to be utilized in ContainerLab, you have to clone a repository. It's a fork of the VRNet repository, HELT, which is, excuse me, Roman, our counterpart at Nokia, that's his fork, and you have to clone that. And once you clone it, you can download, let's say, a Sonic VM or SROS VM, and then containerize it or package it as a container so that it can be deployed in ContainerLab. So the steps for that is given in the slides. So I think everyone will get these slides or can be downloaded, and they're also available online as well. So the different VM images that are available, so much like Nokia, SROS, Sonic, Juniper, Arista, VEOS, and many others that you will have to package as a container to utilize in ContainerLab. So we made a conscious decision or an effort to make sure we are utilizing images that are easily available. And Arista and Sonic, they're both easily available, and definitely SRL, that is available right directly from the GitHub repository, so that you can pull even from just a YAML file if you liked. So in terms of the lab itself, there are some activities. We're doing a typical traditional data center two-tier design, spine leaf. The spines are SRL. The leaves are a variant of, let's say, SRL, Arista, COS, and Sonic. And we're doing both. The green boxes are layer 2, and the purple boxes are layer 3. There's an activity that actually adds type 5, creates a VRF4 for Sonic, so that you will have layer 3 for all of the different devices, and also type 2 for all the devices. So we're doing. So there are different activities that you can do. For example, the first activity is actually building out BGP on our SRL device. And then there's another activity to push the SONiC configurations so that that brings up the SONiC device itself. SONiC is, as I said, it's a very large image. It's a VM image, and you will have to be patient when you're at that stage. It will probably take about 5 minutes for all interfaces to come up. SONiC is also available as a container, but the experience and the I would say the consistency of the experience varies. So the best experience we had with SONiC was as a VM image. Even though it's large, you have access to all the containers that come up. So it could be the GNMIC, it could be FRR, it could be any other container that you can actually go into SONiC and say Docker PS and see all the different containers that are running. If you were to use a containerized image, you will not see that because everything's so. So for all of the different interfaces to come up, SONiC might take a little bit of time. So you'll have to be a little patient. So that would just be the lab, and there are other components that we're actually doing. The second part of this session is actually interacting with the lab and getting observability from the lab itself. So meaning we're using GNMIC to actually stream telemetry from SRL, Arista, and SONiC. Anybody has any questions, encountering issues, bored out of your minds? Because this is... Pardon? How much RAM? I mean, your biggest consumer will be SONiC. Yeah. But the others, I don't see, depending on how much resources you have on your laptop. Oh, wow. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. We can walk around and answer questions and help with the lab. Okay. So in terms of activity, have you guys finished all the activities? Are you at the SONiC piece? Are you at the SRL piece? You guys are catching up on emails. That's fine too. Go ahead. You have a question?
Is there a UI representation of the topology I'm working on right now?
Pardon?
Say, for example, you have JNS3 or EVPN.
Yeah.
You have a UI topology where I can see have command signs on what I'm working on, right? But is there a thing like that on the container labs, or is there a way I can integrate?
There is. With the more recent VS Code integration, yes, you could definitely just go directly into the box. There'll be a representation in VS Code of a topology, and then you can get into the box itself through the topology. Is that what you're asking about, being able to interact with the box?
Same like how the ContainerLab works, you do have EVNG or JNS3,
Yep.
where you can spin up the devices and run, right? container lab, you don't have a visual representation of the
Yeah,
topology.
so that we don't have a visible representation, but if you're in the VM itself, there should be a YAML file that gives the entire. It's a declarative model. So if you read through the YAML file, you'll see where we're instantiating, let's say, an SRL with the startup configuration or the Arista EOS with the startup configuration. All of these components are listed in the YAML file, and then that's what you will push with the ContainerLab deploy. That's what you're deploying, that YAML file. So you're defining your intent in the YAML file, yes. So yes, there isn't a visual representation, but in VS Code, I believe the plugin allows you to have a visual representation, and then you'll be able to actually log into the box once it deploys. Perhaps, Mo, if you want to answer, let me
Sure.
take that question.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Just I want to quickly show you guys, we have taken this container lab to the next level. Everyone's deployed the lab? Hands up. Right? Cool. All right. So we actually developed a VS Code plugin called ContainerLab. So if anybody uses VS Code as their editor, so all you need to do is just go to the plugins and just do ContainerLab, and you'll be able to install that on your machines, developed machines, or your local laptops, anywhere. I have already installed it. So as soon as you do that, you'll start seeing a small icon like this on your left panel, right? So this does a lot of great things, right? So let's say if I have this lab which we just downloaded it, right? So for example, the GitHub, the folder which I provided, right? So this has a topology file, right? So the topology file looks like that, right? So you have a name of your lab, then what is the management address, and topology, which nodes we are using, nodes, leaf 1, 2, 3, and this is just a topology file. Let's say if you like to do build using the plugin itself, so all you need to do is, as soon as you have the folder, the plugin detects that there is ContainerLab topology files, right? You see there will be an amber color because my lab is not completely up in my machine. So what happens is if you expand this one, right, it will show you what are all the nodes are being deployed, right? So if you see I have client 1 all the way to 6 and GNMIC, Grafana, Leaf. Purposely I kept Leaf 5 down to show that, like, I mean, when one of the nodes are not completely up, it will show you different color. And spines, right? So it not only just gives you what is running or not, like, I mean, it will actually does lot amazing stuff. For example, if I right click on this plugin, actually I can visualize how my topology looks like that. So we keep adding stuff to make things easier. Let's say if I want to visualize how my links are connected, point-to-point links, all I need to do is graph and topo topology. So reading the configuration files, this will give you amazing topology file. Isn't this cool, guys? Right? Lovely. And actually, not only this one, we actually have a multiple different variations of this one, right? So actually, you can click on each one of them. It will give you what action you want to do. You want to go to SSH, attach shell, view logs, stuff like that, right? So you can just be on code, and you can just be on this whole thing. And actually, it will read the files. It will actually build the links, and it will map which port is connected to which of the far end, right? Okay, and now this is we added recently also. Let's say we all love to have our topology files in our archives, right? So we can actually draw the topologies, and we have this draw.io embedded into that. So where you can actually build this and drag and drop, you can change and you can save, export to PNG, PDF, or any formats you want, and you can keep it in your archives, right? So I mean, this is just built out of this ContainerLab topology, right?
and it actually maps links also. This is completely editable. Also, we had another web graph. This is our first, where you can actually host this topology files on your web browser, right? So for example, if I go here and do, let's say, 10.1.10.12. So there you go. It will actually build my another set of topology, right? So you have multiple ways to use this, right? So you can have horizontal, vertical, stuff like that. You can use this with this plugin. All right, and sure. I mean, the plugin is there from almost a couple of months. But we've been adding every 15 days. There is new feature coming along. Also, there is new feature, I think it just got released. I did not install that on my laptop, where you can drag and drop from one node to another node. It will build the topology for you, actually. So you can go and download that. All right. So actually, also, you can deploy the lab, destroy the labs, and inspect, save configurations. This feature we added a couple of months back, where, let's say, this is a fairly big topology. I have about 8 nodes, right? So, and let's say if I want to take a break, I wanted to continue this next week, how do I continue again, right? So I need to save my configurations, right? So the save configurations. Imagine you have to log into 8 nodes, save them, again, loading up takes a lot of time. So if you just do the save config, right? So what happens is this plugin will go to each one of them nodes. It will capture the snapshot, and it will create a directory in the present working context, and it will keep all in a nicely organized folders, right? So it's pretty a good feature, because let's say with this one, you can actually share these labs with your colleagues, friends. Hey, take this lab. You don't have to build from starting giving IP address or configuring cards. BGP is already built on that. You can actually start working on top of what is already built there. Any questions on this? And by the way, in this labs, this plugin, you guys have to install that on your VS Code if you are using VS Code. It's openly and freely available there in the marketplace. We were told that before. That's the reason we actually had downloaded all the images of SR Linux and Sonic before. We were given a heads up about it. So we have about another 5 minutes before we go for a break, and I think after the break we'll talk about streaming telemetry, what are all the different stacks we are using here, and much more cooler stuff. And if you have any questions on deploying the lab, and also feel free to continue in the break, right? I mean, grab a coffee, and actually me and Amer and Chris and a few folks will be here to answer any questions. Be happy to help you guys. And also, you can actually download and feel free to spin up in your own infrastructure or in your own laptops. So just one more quick thing. Once you have deployed the lab, right? So let's say if you want to revisit and see if your lab has deployed, what is running. So it's a simple command called ContainerLab. Also, when you install that, right? So we add that ContainerLab command in your path, so you don't have to type everything. So if you just do container and tab, it will autocomplete, right? ContainerLab inspect -- all. So it will go and it will give all the labs which is deployed on your machine, right? So you can run on every one of your machine. ContainerLab inspect space -- all. You see all it's running. It will give you what is the image it's using and what is the kind status. If it's running, exit it, stop. And also it will have an IP address, right? You can log in using the IP address or the name of the appliance, whether you name of the node, leaf1 or 172.30.30.